And welcome to Spring Fling Special. What we're talking about is the lighting demonstration that I've been doing throughout the weekend, ably assisted by my wonderful daughter Meg. I've been doing these throughout the weekend, so we thought we'd do a little presentation video here for those of you who have been absolutely unable to make it along directly. So here, to give you a sense, I've tried to set this up so you can see the stage area there, and then over here what you might be able to see is the TV. So I've got the camera rigged up to a laptop, rigged up to the big screen, so that hopefully you can see what's going on. Now, I'm not entirely sure how well the sound quality is going to come across. Generally speaking, phones are designed for close-up rather than at a distance. But I will try and project, and hopefully you'll be able to hear what I'm saying. So, let's make a start, and I'll talk you through what I've been doing for, well, pretty much the way that I've been doing the presentation so far. So the main thing is we start off with a photo of the ambient light. So when I take a photo of Meg, under the ambient light, what you can see here is, well, it's a lovely photo of Meg, but the light isn't particularly very interesting. And also, the light is pretty low. We've got some strip lights on overhead, but on these current settings, it's actually at ISO 6400, which for the photographers among you will know means it's pretty poor quality. Will be fine maybe for a little web photo, but would be absolutely no good at all if you were wanting to print it up to any level. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it to ISO 100. So having put it on ISO 100, which means it's going to be a really good quality photo, if I print it up, and then I photograph Meg, what happens is we can see it's now so dark that there's virtually no light showing at all. So at this point, what we're going to do is we're going to introduce artificial light. Now, generally speaking, what would happen at this moment is either you're on your phone or your camera, you would use the inbuilt flash. Now, the problem with the flash is that all the light comes from the same direction as you're looking. So, to simulate that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this studio light and I'm going to place it just by the side of the camera so that you'll get a sense of what it looks like when the light comes from the same direction. There we go. Now what we can see is the picture of Meg has turned out. We've got her lit, and that's fine. But this kind of light is neither flattering nor particularly interesting. So when the light source is coming from the same direction as the camera, it tends to be very flat, dull, uninteresting. Maybe there's a little bit of shadow on the wall, but there's not really a lot going on. It's much more interesting if we can have the light source coming from a different direction. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move this round 45 degrees. So move that round to here, and then I will take the photo again. And now what we see is that we've got shadow on one side, and the photo starts to become considerably more interesting. Watch what happens if we move it round a bit further. Lower that down a bit. So now what we've got is more or less 90 degrees. So we're doing a sort of full-on side light. So now what you can see is become quite a bit more dramatic. When you have a side light, it really adds drama to the idea of the image. So it's looking very different. We can take this a step further and move this round behind. So now what we've got is closer to a backlight. And at this point, you can see it's creating an edge. Meg's face herself is now falling into silhouette, but we've got quite a nice edge light to it. So depending on the direction of the main light can have a profound impact on how the picture is going to look. However, with all these pictures so far, one of the main things to notice is that the light is very hard. If I go back to, we're using a straightforward studio strobe here, and what it does is that it creates a hard shadow. So the quality of light isn't just about the light, it's about the shadow that it casts. And generally speaking, a smaller light casts a harder shadow. A larger light casts a softer shadow. So on a bright day, when you've got sunlight, the sun's actually very small in the sky by comparison, so it creates a very hard shadow. So if we want to soften that shadow up, we need to create a larger light source. Hence, this time, we have the softbox. And this is what this big thing is doing here. So, inside this softbox, I have a light virtually identical to this one. So, place that out of the way, and I'll just plug in this one. Switch that on. So now, what will happen is the light itself will hit the big softbox, the diffuser, and spread the light out. So when I go click, we'll see that the shadows are softer and creamier, and you get a much more beautiful quality to the light. But if we want, we can increase the complexity of the light by reintroducing that other light. So if I turn it around like that, we can now have that wonderful little edge light that we had, plus the softbox. And what we have is we have the beautiful soft creamy light, and we have the edge light. But we can take this a little bit further, have a little bit more fun. If I place this light now directly behind, try to place my daughter directly between the light and the camera, then what we should end up with is an interesting backlight, complete backlight, where you can see this wonderful halo effect. So what's happening then is we can see how the light is diffused through the softbox to create this wonderful soft creamy light. However, light will also diffuse and spread if there are particles in the air, like when you have a beautiful, say, misty morning or a foggy day. So we can kind of introduce the idea of that with the smoke machine. And now when I take a photo, you can see just how much the light is hitting all the particles and spreading out. And as the smoke starts to diffuse, with each photo I take, there's a slightly different pattern. That's really what I wanted to talk about with the notion of light, and that's the demonstration that I've been doing all weekend. That essentially, you can play around with your lighting, that to understand that the direction of the light makes a profound difference to the mood and feel of an image. And then the softness and the hardness of the light also changes the quality. In addition, that if you can introduce any other kind of element, like spreading the light through a softbox, or the interesting thing of introducing smoke or mist, then the light does amazing things. So hopefully you enjoyed that, found that interesting, and maybe next year, if you can make it along to Spring Fling, I'll be doing other photography demonstrations. Thank you very much for your time. Bye.